All right. So this, if you haven't been here before, welcome to one of the Weave a Real Piece monthly webinars, panel presentations, and this month's is about Acadian Brown Cotton, which I think has a fascinating background and story and an inspired future. So I'm happy that Sharon and her team are here to share with you. Weave a Real Piece sponsors this program, and Kelsey, do you want to share the website and just say a minute or two about Weave a Real Piece?
Sure. Thank you, Judy. So I would like to echo Judy's welcome to everyone. Thank you all for joining us on this Saturday for this panel discussion. I'm just going to briefly share the WARP website, and it's weavearealpiece.org. And we are an international textile networking organization. And this panel discussion is one of our monthly programs. I want to share on the website that under events, you can find all of our other upcoming events. The panel discussions are all free and open to all. And then we also have members only events listed here. And if you have missed any of our previous programs and would like to watch the recordings and read the descriptions, you can just click on the previous events tab that is underneath that. We also have quite a lot of news on our website between our quarterly newsletter, which is here, and our monthly blog posts. And our next blog post will come out next week and will be a follow-up to today's program. So if you want more information about Acadian Brown Cotton, you can check out that blog next week. And lastly, if you're interested in a WARP membership or just learning about what WARP is all about, then you can visit this membership tab or the About tab on the site. And you're always welcome to contact me with any questions at all. And I'll put my email into the chat. All right, thank you so much. And Judy, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Very good. Thanks, Kelsey. So this afternoon, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Sharon Donnan, who is the founder of the Acadian Brown Cotton Project. I'm trying to remember how long ago we met, Sharon. I was very inspired by you. I think it was the documentary that you put out that was shared maybe at a WARP annual meeting. I think probably it was. But since then, I've had a chance to get to know you. We've talked about fiber sheds. I've come down and visited your annual meeting and seen where all of this magic happens. And I'm so glad you're here with us today to share a little bit about how you got involved in this and what's happening and where we're going. I'll turn it to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Judy. And I want to thank the entire WARP team for inviting us here today and so patiently helping us orchestrate our presentation. I was telling Judy earlier, I am totally low-tech Lizzie, and Kelsey and Judy, just the entire WARP team have been so helpful. Deborah, hats off. Thank you so much. Judy Newland, hey, how are you? Anyway, thank you also to my Acadian Brown Cotton team. All volunteers, by the way, who have contributed so much to the revitalization of Acadian brown cotton in South Louisiana. You'll meet Jennie and Randon later on, but Megan and Darcy weren't able to be with us today. And we just want to express our gratitude for their commitment and perseverance and hard work. First slide. I want to assure you that we are still actively pursuing the past and creating a future and bringing this project into the 21st century. For my presentation last year, as some of you might remember, I toured you through our exhibition at the Hilliard Museum of Art at the University of Louisiana, Lafayette. Its title, Acadian Brown Cotton, the Fabric of Acadiana. We remain forever grateful to the National Endowment for the Humanities for fully funding our request of $75,000. I believe that was the most money that the museum has ever received. So to be acknowledged as worthy, just to be acknowledged as worthy was the greatest affirmation we have yet to receive. This grant allowed us to illustrate a brief history of the Acadian people, the continuing tradition of weaving household textiles for Cajun bridal dowries, and the tools and skills required to do so. Special attention was paid to the women who promoted and preserved this 200-year-old tradition from 1890 to the present. Our Acadian Brown Cotton Field to Fashion project is the third revitalization, and we hope will be the most successful attempt both to revive and revitalize the growing and the manufacturing of Acadian brown cotton. You may remember this iconic armoire, a staple in every Acadian household that beautifully displayed the family's l'amour de maman, a mother's labor of love for her daughter. This armoire in the entry to the exhibit housed the finest examples of hand-spun, hand-woven blankets. They were generously loaned by Dr. and Pat C. Holden from their extraordinary collection at Maison Chenal in Giroux, Louisiana. During the height of the pandemic, a loyal and trusted crew of volunteers and textile lovers, all my dear friends, assisted in mounting the exhibit. The work was made more difficult with COVID restrictions, but Cajun resilience and dedication won out. That's me trying to make decisions surrounded by the most exquisite Acadian blankets. Elaine Bourque, one of Louisiana's tradition bearers, and her apprentice Austin Clark performed miracles overhauling an old Acadian loom. It was originally owned by Madame Josephine Gary and used until days before her death at age 92. She requested that no flowers be placed on her grave, on her casket, but her blankets instead. Madame Gary adorns the cover of the DVD, the documentary film which began my journey. I first learned that there even is such a thing as natural brown cotton, excavating at archaeological sites on the north coast of Peru in the 70s and 80s. I was the resident textile conservator and also did the analysis on all the textiles. Brown cotton was abundant in the woven offerings accompanying most grave lots. Up valley, it was still cultivated, spun and woven in many indigenous villages. Research on the pita fiber of Mexico took me to Oaxaca in the 1990s, where natural brown cotton was and still is cultivated, spun, and woven in many communities. By this time, I was fascinated, but life took me in a different direction. In 2005, I made my first visit to South Louisiana in pursuit of Zydeco music. Yes, I love it, and I am a dancer. Still, I made regular visits yearly, but it wasn't until 2011 that I discovered an old Cajun blanket in an antique shop in Washington, Louisiana. I had recently completed a documentary film on Mr. Howard Citizen, a Creole gentleman and terrific Zydeco dancer. And that won the audience favorite award at the Cinema on the Bayou Film Festival in Lafayette. I had just begun to ponder what my next project might be, and there it was. Suzanne Bro, Elaine Bourque, and I proceeded to interview all the folks who had heirloom blankets or remembered their mothers and grandmothers weaving. Cajuns are among the best storytellers in the world and love a good listener. We were thrilled with the oral histories we captured. Cinema on the Bayou premiered the film at Vermilionville, a restored Acadian Village museum, and to our surprise, more than 350 people showed up. The film screened at spinning and weaving guilds across the country, and over 1,000 copies have been sold. Soon, an invitation from the Textile Society of America arrived, and it was there in 2016 in Savannah, Georgia, that I learned about women's weaving cooperatives around the globe. They supported their families, preserved resources, and kept alive ancient traditions. I've recently learned that one, if not two, of those co-ops are actually WARP members. Elaine and I returned to Lafayette and found lots of enthusiasm about doing the same in South Louisiana. In 2017, our first meeting brought together 75 people, from farmers to anthropologists, politicians, and boll weevil inspectors. teachers, and history buffs. We collectively decided on a mission statement and priorities. The exhibit was organized around the content of the film and expanded with contributions from guest curators. We were fortunate that the museum extended the exhibition until June of 2021 because of COVID. Many of the events and activities were canceled, but we managed to convince the powers that be to host an Acadian Brown Cotton Day at the closing. Our ABC team came together like a well-oiled machine. Every time I looked around, all of them, each and every one, was engaged in conversation with visitors, explaining the history, the farming practices, the weaving techniques, and how they can get involved. By this time, we had a growing relationship with Fibershed, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Fibershed encourages all affiliates to recognize the local Native people of each region as the original stewards of the land we now cultivate. We asked Alfreda and Edgar, leaders of the Lipan Apache Band, and who are close friends of one of our members, if they could open Acadian Brown Cotton Day with a blessing for the land and the crop recently planted. They were delighted and truly set the tone for the day. They've even asked to come back to all of our events, and we welcome them. A farmer panel discussing regenerative agriculture and a screening of the film took place upstairs, and we sold ABC-related products downstairs, including our beautiful commemorative pins and posters. Cajun musicians jammed on the lawn, and two of our growers playing fiddle. Families, including Randon's family, enjoyed picnics on the lawn and just great music, great crowd. Inside, several local weavers demonstrated their skills in woven goods. Fun weaving activities were available for the children. Samples of our ABC yarn, both woven and knitted, were on display. You may recognize Michael Doucet from the band Beausoleil. Michael allowed us to use his music in the DVD and appears in the film. He's one of Acadiana's treasures and supported this endeavor every step of the way. Suzanne is gifting him with a beautiful table runner she wove. As you can see, we have done much to preserve the past, and that will continue. We do know whose shoulders we stand on, and we are deeply committed to that part of our project. But now we'd like to share with you what we have done and plan to do in creating the future of Acadiana. The banner was created by Randon and indicates or shows everyone who we are, that we are a Fibershed, that we are certified Louisiana, and what our goals have been. I hope you can read that. Top priority, number one on that bullet, is to preserve the heirloom seed. In 2011, only 2 growers were known to have preserved the heirloom seed: Elaine Bork and Charlene Quinalty, both spinners and weavers who appear in the documentary. And at just about the same time, the University of Louisiana Lafayette received a large grant to fund the construction of a seed bank dedicated to Louisiana native plants threatened by invasive non-native grasses. This is the ribbon cutting of the opening of the building. Acadian brown cotton is not native to Louisiana, but has been around long enough to be designated an eco-variety seed acclimated to climate and soil conditions in Acadiana. I was so nervous trying to approach the chairman of the geosciences department, but with the backing of the entire department and research farm, they took us on as a side project. Personally, with the level of anxiety I developed over approaching them, I thought this was nothing short of a miracle when they said yes. Mark Simon, now retired, managed the Cade Research Farm and Seed Bank. He remembered planting and picking ABC, Acadian Brown Cotton, with his grandma and welcomed the project. He hosted the meeting that Judy, you attended, and cooked the jambalaya. Multi-talented, that man. We're very proud to say we have banked over 400 pounds of ABC seed in this state-of-the-art facility. We continue to recruit growers, and among them, my new favorite Cajun band members, Doug and Suzanne. Deb Waldman, one of our original team members and one of the hardest workers, hand-delivered seeds to these two. Their particular challenge was the blackjack soil, which you can see in this slide, and it looks and feels like just large clay clumps. Their struggle and perseverance produced the most cotton of any of our growers 2 years in a row. As our venture progressed, I needed to stay ahead of the game and know more about the direction we might take, the options, the pitfalls to avoid, and how to survive the bumps in the road. Almost immediately, one of our growers signed our agreements, took our seed, and went into business for himself. So lessons to be learned by me, a city girl, filmmaker, not a Cajun, and driven largely by instinct and passion. But it's really not enough. So I dedicated myself to learning all I could about the textile industry, fast fashion, and its intersection with pollution. It is, by the way, the second largest polluter on the planet after coal. How it interfaces with climate change and just basic Louisiana agriculture. And you can see, I'm going to just let you read that yourselves, but textile and apparel waste accounts for 5.8% of landfill waste just in the United States. The fashion industry is responsible for 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions and for 20% of water pollution worldwide. But 88% of consumers want businesses to be more ethical and environmentally friendly. I'll let you spend some time reviewing those facts. And actually, we want again to express our gratitude to Megan Phipps, because this entire presentation and all of the facts which are cited at the end of our presentation were compiled by Megan, and who is a newer team member and devotes hours to making sure we present well. And she herself is an eco-conscious textile designer residing in New Orleans. So it's shocking and disheartening news, yes, but also we find pathways to solutions. My biggest takeaways are how much power the consumer has and how much positive impact changing the way we farm and landscape can have on our environment. Fibershed, and you can see here on the slide their definition of who they are and what they do, was an organization that just kept popping up on my screen. So the more I learned and took back to our team meetings, the more convinced I was that Rebecca Burgess and this amazing Northern California group were already doing what we wanted to do in Acadiana. We were in total alignment with their mission, and they were totally willing to share. Although most of the Fibershed affiliates are sheep ranchers, we were welcomed and became the Acadiana affiliate. Since that time, we've extended our Fibershed geographically to include the entire state. That falls within the 300-mile radius required or suggested by Fibershed, and a full array of fibers. We've discussed, Darcy in her research has discovered alpaca farmers, and of course we know we have sheep, Gulf Coast sheep introduced by the Spaniards early on. So we look forward to having them join our Fibershed. But our heirloom seed remains unique to Acadiana and can only be distributed within those 22 parishes. Fibershed provides a roadmap as well as critical support for achieving our goals. And I know that WARP is planning a presentation with Rebecca, and it will certainly be one you don't want to miss. Now, as regenerative agriculture was very new to me, I'd like to turn the meeting over now to Jennie Lallande, who will actually explain to you more about, well, regenerative agriculture, but also she will do her own intro. And thank you, Jennie. Here we go.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today, and thanks for your interest in our project. My educational background is in the field of environmental science, technology, and environmental geology. And right now in South Louisiana, environmental science is 90% coastal science and mitigation of land loss. And you'll see our first slide sort of exemplifies that. So this is just a little bit of a frame of reference for the geographic area that we're talking about. It's South Louisiana, perched right alongside the Gulf of Mexico. The top image is the present day coastline. And we're predicted to have at least a 1 foot sea level rise in the next 30 years. And so the bottom image shows what that inundation, what that sea level rise will look like on our low-lying coastal parishes, which is our coastal counties. And this is pretty much all of Acadiana looking at that much of an increase in sea level rise. So in addition to this looming threat of sea level rise throughout the Acadiana region, modern agriculture dominated by commercial sugar and rice is the greatest threat to soil loss and water quality, with soil erosion from tillage and soil sediments from agricultural runoff being the greatest contributor to soil and water loss and contamination. And then the remaining 10% of environmental science in our area is looking at not just the human adaptations that are going to have to take place to survive here, but what do we do to support all biological life on this rapidly changing coastline? And how can we build resilience for ourselves to these increasingly violent, destructive weather events? I believe the key to coastal community resilience is in the soil. And that's why I'm a steadfast supporter and student of regenerative agriculture. And that's the next slide. For the last 10 years, I've been working as a facilitator and organizer with my own nonprofit in urban community gardens, public school gardens, and with backyard and hobby farmers to boost food security and small-scale economic growth through, just basic agriculture and agriculture-adjacent activities. And my planting philosophy is to have as many plants as possible in any growing area to bring in diversity above the soil surface with birds and insects, but most importantly, diversity in the soil body, and really support soil microbes, larger animals and insects that act as nutrient cyclers. And this photograph that accompanies the slide was actually taken a few days ago. You'll see Acadian brown cotton, there's some flowers and a couple of mature bolls, and it's interplanted with Roselle hibiscus, which is used for tea, and then there's beans underneath that give a little bit of a weed block and also food for ourselves and for other animals, and then also fixed nitrogen at the same time. So really diverse plantings. Having this beautiful canopy of plant leaves above the ground keeps the soil covered and protected from erosion, blocks the weeds, and it does a great job of reducing temperatures. We find that really heavily planted areas are a whole lot cooler than adjacent like lawns or driveways. So this diverse and thick plant coverage at all times ensures that carbon in the form of CO2 is continuously cycled at the ground level instead of escaping to the atmosphere. And that's in carbon farming terms, that's that fast carbon cycling, fast carbon capture. And then many plants equals many roots in the soil. Many roots protect the soil from soil loss by erosion and increases the amount of rainwater that a soil body is able to retain. Incorporating animals into production areas can look like grazing cows and chickens in crop productions, but it can also be as simple as encouraging insects and birds to use the space by providing flowering plants, berries throughout the year. South Louisiana is a subtropical climate, and we're able to grow food crops throughout the year, pretty much all year round. The summertime, though, is rough for food crops. Mid-June to mid-September are very hot and very humid, and it's sometimes difficult to find that diversity of plants that will survive here. Okra is a regional favorite that absolutely loves our summer weather, but really there's only so much okra that one person or one family needs each season or each year. So we're still always, looking for other options to have that dense planting. Okra's in the mallow or hibiscus family of plants, and cotton. Cotton is also in the mallow family, which makes it a perfect candidate for summer growing in our area. This is my second year growing Acadian brown cotton, and I'm really delighted how this plant performs. It does check off all of these regenerative agriculture boxes, and the plant itself is beautiful. It's fantastic. I can't say enough good things about it. The more I get to know of this plant, I just love it, love everything it has to offer. And then the program that Acadian Brown Cotton team has assembled is a great benefit to small family farms and hobby farmers. As it stands now, the program provides the cotton seed to any interested grower and then offers support throughout the growing season. We buy back all the cotton produced at $5 a pound of raw cotton paid to the producer. And then average production is a ½ pound to 1 pound per plant. So a small plot of 50 to 100 plants in someone's backyard could yield an extra $200 to $250 to $500 in revenue from a soil body that would have otherwise been fallow or bare soil, and this time of year probably a mud puddle. And our team then gins the raw cotton, separates the seed from the fiber, banks seed for distribution the following growing season, and offers the fiber for sale to the public. And I'll go back to you, Sharon.
Thank you, Jennie.
Thank you.
And I think everyone can certainly see how welcome Jennie is to our project and what a tremendous asset she has been and continues to be. So the slide you're looking at right now is the cover of a document recently published by Fibershed and available to download free of charge from their website. We are one of the case studies profiled in this guidebook for brands and producers. One of the most difficult challenges we face is finding a local or even a mill close by to process our cotton. We thought we were on the right track when a mill previously owned by Fruit of the Loom appeared in North Louisiana. Our team met with the manager for nearly 2 hours, and because they were connected to a well-known chemical company and produced genetically modified cottonseed, we backed away. We were all 100% in agreement. I might have caved, however, had it not been for Bruno Segura, one of our growers and the youngest member of our team at that time. He just simply said to me, "Miss Sharon, we have to stick to our principles and climate beneficial practices." So I now bow to this younger generation. I cannot tell you how much faith and hope I have for our future because of them. They're passionate and committed, and truly they are the future. So Amy Dufault, one of the authors of the toolkit, was present at that Zoom meeting. She's always been a mentor and a friend, my go-to person on nearly every decision. It was she and Sarah, the co-author, who decided to include us in a case study in the toolkit. Again, Fibershed providing a roadmap for producers and manufacturers to meet and successfully find their way forward. The toolkit was, this is Amy. The toolkit was released this last June at the United Nations Circular Design Summit in New York, which I attended. Designers, manufacturers this last June from high-end, designers. I think Kelsey said she knows Lola down there with Amy in the bottom right-hand slide. But designers, manufacturers from very high-end, Mara Hoffman in your upper left, to very small business vintage and recycled clothing vendors were present, including members of the UN. The woman in the leopard print is their chief of partnership at the UN. It was truly, truly a United Nations of slow fashion innovators and thought leaders, and one of the most stimulating and exciting meetings I've ever attended. So you must be asking, but are you Acadian Brown Cotton producing anything? And the answer is finally yes. Another new member, Darcy Fabre, spinner, weaver, and designer, is our resident artisan. She found us through the Fiber Shed affiliate directory. A recent graduate of ULL's Department of Industrial Design and currently enrolled in the business school as a graduate student. She can't be with us today because she's getting married in 10 days. So if you're listening, Darcy, a great shout out. Thank you. And these are some of the beautifully designed and woven items that Darcy has. Coasters or mug rugs, as she calls them. Key fobs, earrings, which she also produces in a wide array of colors and hues. Hat bands for the Cajun Hattery in downtown Lafayette on special order, and larger, more complex pieces that you can see on her loom in the bottom slide, also available on special order. So a few months ago, Darcy attended a weavers conference in East Texas and met the outreach director for a newly formed organization around the world in 80 fabrics. Leslie Robertson was impressed with Darcy's complex weaving patterns and her commitment to revitalizing Acadian brown cotton. So much so, she extended an invitation to participate in their exhibit, soon to travel truly around the world. Both founding members, Tierney Tice and Carol Dunnan, are National Geographic scholars and explorers. And I believe you are scheduled to hear from them as well this fall, another fantastic presentation you won't want to miss. Darcy and Suzanne wove quilt squares, and ABC is now officially one of the 80 fabrics going around the world. The opening exhibit in Melbourne, Australia at the Raw Assembly, which was a gathering of alternative fiber growers, designers, and innovators who are changing the way we design and produce fashion and textiles. Raw Assembly says this: the world has changed dramatically over the last year. It is no longer about the seasons, catwalk collections, colors, or prints. It's about us reconnecting with one another, using both old and new techniques to produce products fit for purpose and the future, whilst preserving and regenerating the natural world left around us. I find it so comforting, and I'm sure you do too, to know that good people are doing good things, even extraordinary things in these toughest of times all around the world. Both Fiber Shed and Around the World in 80 Fabrics are connecting us to one another, and ABC is so proud to be there. From Melbourne, the exhibit traveled to Washington, D.C., and the Smithsonian sponsored Folklife Festival on the National Mall. Earth optimism was the theme, a response to the gloom and doom narrative of global warming, and they showcased international examples of creativity and innovation. Sponsored by the Smithsonian Institution. I love the photo and I couldn't resist putting it in. Next slide. One entire day was devoted to Acadian brown cotton. We had unginned cotton, roving yarn, woven examples of traditional Acadian textiles, posters, pins, DVDs, and of course, Darcy demonstrated spinning on her travel-ready charka. We gave 3 separate presentations and answered questions from morning till night. We were surrounded by artisans from Africa, Fiji, Peru. Yes, Nilda was there. She's also a WARP member. From Palestine and Senegal, just to mention a few. So I think that pretty much brings you up to date with this last year. And I personally am barely recovered from all the travel and the excitement. But I'm sure you're asking yourselves, where do we go from here? Hand cleaning, you see the carders there, the raw cotton still in its husk, and our wonderful old French coffee pot. So how do we go from that to a regional fiber manufacturing industry in Acadiana. It's a big jump, and here to tell you about our next steps and introduce himself is Randon Dufrene. There you go, Randon.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be a part of the WARP presentation today. I'll, like Sharon said, I'll introduce myself. My name is Randon Dufrene. I am from a small town in South Louisiana called Jean Lafitte, named after the pirate. If you're familiar with any of the New Orleans folk tales and things of that nature, there's a town named after him. I'm the 6th generation commercial fisherman for shrimp. My father is currently operating a shrimping vessel now. I moved to Lafayette for work. I met my wife, and our 2nd anniversary, I was looking for a gift. And I guess the traditional gift is cotton. And we have a local native plant nursery here in downtown Lafayette that I frequent often because I'm always filling my front yard with plants and other things just to fill the space. And we came across these 2 Acadian Brown Cotton plants, part of the project that Sharon had initiated here with the filming of the DVD, the documentary, and the production of the DVD to expand the knowledge about this plant and our heritage in this area, and to preserve part of that Cajun culture, because as we all know, Cajuns are known for their food. This is something that now they this textile, this weaving tradition is now deeply rooted in the community as well because of the documentary, and I'll speak to that in a second. So anyway, I grabbed those 2 plants, planted them. It produced an abundant amount of cotton in our front yard. It was glorious. So I had this cotton for about 2 years. We were selling shrimp at Festival of Acadiana, and I came across Acadian Brown Cotton, the organization. They were selling DVDs. I grabbed one, and I was completely in love with the story. I fell in love with the story. My wife is a Cajun from Mir. They live on, her parents live on 2 acres out there, which is where our plot is now. We started growing. I met Miss Sharon in the group, and really just wanted to know how I can contribute and just pass this along to my children. We now have 3 children under the age of 5, the youngest being 1, who's my daughter, Mary Lucille. And so now, knowing the history, my goal is to start her dowry, to start her blankets and her towels, to rebuild this chest of love and Acadian textile blankets and towels for her, and maybe pass that one more generation. So I'm so thankful to Miss Elaine for passing us the seed and allowing us to expand our garden a little bit bigger, more than just tomatoes and cucumbers. Now we have 3,000 square feet of Acadian Brown Cotton, and new this year we picked up some native indigo that we found a couple plants of native indigo, and we integrated that into our rows where it's Acadian Brown Cotton, indigo, Acadian Brown Cotton, indigo. So we're incorporating more and more plants, falling in line with the principles of RA, and really taking a part out of pulling the herbicides and pesticides from our garden, because we don't want to wear it, we don't want to eat it, we don't want to wear it. So moving forward, we found an abundance of fiber from our growers, and more than can be used for our own practices and purposes, and for our own spinning and weaving. It allowed us to really look at how can we share with the world this fiber, more than just selling or giving away the seed to the locals, but more than just selling the fiber. It was to create a space here in Lafayette or Acadiana to promote regional manufacturing, because as it stands now, everything has to be shipped across state lines to get processed. And so that's what we're trying to avoid by transportation costs, you know, all of the things that are associated with processing outside of our community. We came across Belfast Mini mills, which is a small. You may be familiar with their mills. You can part and parcel this manufacturing equipment as to what you need. Centered around Acadian brown cotton, it allows us to start small with carding, to where we can start carding our Acadian brown cotton fiber and producing roving to sell, and eventually our yarn, you know, to be able to sell that, and then locally to bring in more farmers to be centered around our manufacturing facility for Acadian brown cotton. We can look at Gulf Coast sheep, alpaca that may be being bred here in Louisiana, and any other fibers that are in our area. So with that, we're setting up a nonprofit organization to look into the opportunities to bring more community together to fund our mill and to grow the knowledge about this beautiful plant that Jennie was talking so much about. I mean, I absolutely fell in love with it when I started growing it. So with that, if there's any, if anyone would like to reach out to, you know, to us directly, any, you know, if on the after the following of the presentation later next week, if feel free to reach out via email on our website, acadianbrowncotton.com. You can check out our team, all of our team members, where we're going, all the information from the Hilliard exhibit is on that website. And then as well as on the day-to-day, you can see through Facebook, our Acadian Brown Cotton page on Facebook. But yeah, and I certainly appreciate everyone's attendance today. And on behalf of all the members of the team, an even bigger thank you. So Sharon, if you'd like to say anything or.
Okay, Randon, Jennie, and Sharon, I want to thank all of you so much for your thoughtful presentations and the hard work you've been doing on behalf of the humble Acadian brown cotton plant. It's fun to see it. And I've got a few questions that people have posed as you've been talking. So we typically like to save our questions till the end so we get to hear what you have to say. And we've got about 10 minutes left in the program today. So I'm going to start with what I think is a straightforward one. If someone wanted to buy Acadian brown cotton, either to spin or to weave with, could they buy it from you?
Okay. Yes, absolutely. We have roving available. If you want to spin our ginned cotton, we have that available, and we are anticipating 2 different weights of yarn coming in September. That's been a struggle for us because the mills are not, they want huge amounts as a minimum order. And so we have found one that has a Belfast mill. It's quite a distance. So that doesn't help with our trying to sequester carbon, but for now, that's the best we can do. So Facebook, Instagram, email, all of those, just let us know. We'll put you on our list, and as soon as the yarn comes in, we'll let you know. But at present, we do have roving and raw cotton.
Okay, and can they purchase that on the website, Sharon? How do they do it?
It will link you to, it will tell you to send us an email.
Okay.
And then from there, Jennie and I will pick that up and be in communication.
Very good. All right. So there was a discussion happening on the chat about indigo as being perhaps a compatible plant, and I know that Randon talked about doing that in his fields. Is there any effort afoot to raise natural dye plants, particularly indigo, which seems to be enjoying a great popularity right now, in your fiber shed?
Jennie, you want to talk to that, or Randon? I know, Randon, you're planting, and there's been some discussion about using it as a cover crop, but you two are far more expert in that than I.
We're both Randon and I are trialing native indigo this year in our fields, and really the biggest thing at the point we're at now is to build up a seed bank, which does take a couple of growing seasons to have enough seed to say plant a half an acre. So that's where we are. But so far, the indigo is a win, and I expect it to be even perennial, a long-lived perennial here. In the right conditions.
Jennie, do you happen to know the botanical name of this indigo that you're growing? I'm hoping I'm asking that question right. Someone wants to know what is native indigo and what strain of indigo are you raising? We have a lot of indigo experts in this group, so it's a good chance to have a little conversation.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm probably gonna butcher the indigo. It's Seraphicosa, or it's indigo. So we found we did some research on native Louisiana indigo, and we found a certain indigo Seraphicosa, I believe. I can't pronounce that appropriately.
Okay, somebody typed it into the chat. That's
it.
Dufrin.
It was found in LSU did a study on this indigo. It was found in the ditches along Shell Roads in Cameron Parish, which is in Southwest Louisiana. And so initially, when I guess it was about 2 summers ago, I took the car and I drove these Shell Roads looking for this indigo along these Shell Roads. And I came up short. I mentioned the nursery, the native nursery here in downtown Lafayette. He was planting an indigo, but and producing it, but it was not the native, the indigo that's found in our Louisiana. And so when I came across, I found some online, the same genus or the same indigo that we produced. We got some of that, we grew it, and then I compared it to what was growing at Miss Elaine's house, and it was the same plant. And so Miss Elaine and I were working last summer. I had 4 plants growing last summer, and she created her dye because she dyes her cotton, her white cotton to go into her tea towels, and so learning her process on how she makes her dye of that, and now it's just to grow. I'm fitting more and more plants into our field so that I can have, like Miss Jennie said, it's increasing our seed bank and offering it to anyone who wants to grow it.
According to some of our members, Indigofera subfruticosa, I hope I haven't done too badly with that, grows all over the southeastern United States, says Judy Newland. So it's not terribly rare. It's native to Mexico and Guatemala. So that's just an FYI. And speaking of where things come from, a couple of people have asked, where did this brown cotton originate? Do you know, Sharon?
Well, actually, we tried to do quite a bit of research on that when I was making the film. And Ray Brassier, who is a professor of anthropology at University of Louisiana Lafayette, his own research indicates that it is the closest to the Mexican seed. It is the hirsutum, and but it is not the same. That seed, the Mexican seed, was originated in the Yucatan Peninsula. Exactly how it arrived in Louisiana, we do not know. There are 2 theories. It could have just swept across the plains along with corn, beans, and squash, or it might have been brought in by the Mexican cattle, the folks who introduced cattle to Louisiana from Mexico. And that may have been part of what they traded. We do know that the Native Americans, when the Acadians first arrived, were not cultivating it, and they had there's no indication in any of our research shows that they were weaving. The Native Americans there were weaving reeds and weaving baskets, but not fiber, not this fiber.
So it was the people who moved to Louisiana from Nova Scotia who discovered it and began its cultivation. Is that right?
Correct, and that's all I think amply covered in the film, in the documentary.
Okay, so any of you who haven't seen the film, it's very interesting and worth viewing. Good historical perspective. I've got a couple more questions pending. One is the question of, have you found any limitations to making your roving and yarn through the ginning, spinning process? Do all industrial machines work, or is there going to need to be something specialized? You know, in other words, can any machines that take care of cotton handle the ABC?
Randon, do you want to answer that? We know the Belfast Mini mill can, definitely. And that's why we've elected to go with it. Do you want to add to that, Randon?
Yeah, it seemed like it was the perfect fit for us, you know, to be able and to get experience with, because we could go and try to find a larger operation, but because we are starting small, this seems the right fit for us.
All right, so it doesn't seem to be a problem.
No.
What's the fiber length of your cotton? Do you happen to know?
We just know it's short. That's what everybody tells us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why it's never been used commercially. And I believe that a lot of Sally Fox's research was done to try to hybridize it and extend that length, because it has so many other worthwhile properties. But and I think she was relatively successful. But this you know, hand carding works just fine. And also, we have great hope for this Belfast Mini mill, and the owners of that company are the Acadians in Louisiana are descendants of those folks, and so they like our project. They love Randon, who's done most of the communication, and part of their program is they will come down. They do charge you, of course, but they will come down. They set it up for you and they train you. And they've offered to do that for the mill that has been producing for us most recently. So they maintain contacts with the people who own their mini mills, and we really look forward to having our own, and that will be really the essence of our fundraising project, because we think we've done just about everything we can do up to now. We'd like to see more weavers in the neighborhood.
Yeah, when I was down there, you had weavers coming from New Orleans. That was terrific.
Right. That's right.
You were telling their stories. Okay, so it's 1 minute until 3. We'd like to try to keep the program limited to an hour, and so I'm going to. One last question. I'll take this one from Mark Daly. There's a book written, he says, about Acadian brown cotton.
I can answer that.
Thank you.
It's L'amour de maman, and it is out of print. And we have done everything humanly possible to convince the State Museum, including funding, to reprint it. And they have steadfastly refused. Go figure. But you might, we have Xerox copies. I think Randon has a Xerox.
Oh, very good. Well, and you know what? Life is long. Maybe in a couple of years, it will come up. Someone, Jane, has said, and I want to echo this, this is a new topic for many people, and she's so glad she attended. Very interesting and informative. Who would imagine that for those of us who've done work all around the world, that we would find a project like this happening in our own backyard? So I encourage you to get on her Sharon's mailing list, to go to her website, to learn more about this, to watch her documentary. And I'm so glad you came to the presentation today. And we'll have another fascinating presentation next month. Kelsey, can I ask you to give us a sneak preview?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Judy. And thank you, Sharon, Randon, and Jennie, for the wonderful presentation today. I'm very excited to share that next month our panel discussion, it'll be a great follow-up to today. It is on fiber sheds, and we will have founders from the Rust Belt Fiber Shed in Ohio speaking. We will have the founder of Nerdy Sheep Fiber Works in Colorado presenting, and we will have Rebecca Burgess, who is the founder and executive director of the Fiber Shed nonprofit umbrella organization. So we hope you'll enjoy it. We hope you'll join us for the conversation about sustainable local fiber systems. And lastly, I would just like to share that in October, Sharon mentioned we will have a panel completely focused around the organization around the world in 80 fabrics, which Sharon shared a bit about today. So a couple of exciting months of programming coming up. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. I hope to see many of you next month, and have a great rest of the weekend, and enjoy the last of the summer. Bye for now.